Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Today. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Yeah, so it's still the new year. Well, maybe you could say it's not even up to a full working week as of yet.
Today's the 6th.
6th. Okay. And today is just Tuesday. Okay, I thought it was Wednesday or Thursday kind of thing. But already, I think we're already seeing some signs what to expect politically this year from what we've seen in Rivers State. I know several people have different expectations, particularly about the business climate. How will all of that eventually pan out? What about the area of health? I know the tax is what you're grappling with at the moment for those who will be having a thing or two to deal with. But you know...
You say for those?
Yes, they keep saying...
Everybody is going to deal with tax, generally.
Well, you know, the narrative that they put out there is that, no, if you're below a certain threshold, we don't want to tax the poor. We want to tax the rich, the haves, not the have-nots. But even those who don't have will still go to restaurants and
how much
eat.
You have become a have when it comes to issues of tax. One way or the other, I know that people will certainly pay tax.
Yeah, but... You know, not that there's anything wrong in paying tax, but yes, you can't tax people to prosperity. And we also, perhaps, if they are by default or design glossing over the fact that what you do with those revenue is hugely important. You can't keep harping on, oh, we have to pay this, we have to pay that. Yes, and after all we pay, what then happens? If you find any of those people misusing those funds, it's not going to be business as usual, because it's not business as usual to the taxpayer.
Indeed.
So we do not expect it to be the same thing for those who are supposed to properly administer those funds. And so if we are going to emphasize and stick and say, police that, make sure this is done. But if you're going to get that money, already, by the way, the governments are getting way much more than they were getting during the time of former presidents of this country. So what do they have to show for it? Is anybody thumping their chest in any state saying, well, I'm standing on my governor is doing this and that in whichever state you reside in? So I think it remains, the jury will be out on that one, I reckon.
Well, Chairman, when the end of the year comes, for some strange reason, my algorithm, you know, starts to tell me, show me very interesting things, what you should be doing by the end of the year, how to take stock, how to plan for the new year, etc., etc. And I think that generally a lot of people have, they're now beginning to imbibe those kinds of tenets. They have the expectations for the new year. They know what goals they want to be able to accomplish. And sometimes, you know, even though sometimes when you listen to motivational speakers, they'll say, you know, if your goal doesn't scare you, if it's not big enough to scare you, then maybe you really haven't set a big goal.
Well, the tax scares people, so it's a big one then. It's a big tax.
When you hear what people are saying in terms of their expectations, you say, well, I wish you the best, you know, I wish you well, especially in the new year. So a lot of expectations. We've been told by the politicians that this is going to be a political year, and so we're beginning to see them start pretty early. You've seen in Rivers State, the former governor of the state, now minister of the FCT, going round all of his local governments in the state, you know, to thank them ostensibly. But from there, fireworks are being felt in different parts of the country, even in the APC, and that has taken the front pages this morning, the front pages of the newspapers, that is. And we're going to be seeing quite a number of issues. But I think that for me, one of the things I'd like us to see, I'd like to, you know, for us to pay a lot more attention to before we go there. How can anyone forget what is happening between Venezuela or between Venezuela and the U.S., or shall we say the Venezuelan president and the United States, who has he's now been docked in a court in the United States. He's pleading not guilty and he still maintains his president. Quite a number of countries have spoken up to say what the United States has done is not right. I mean, you have violated international law. You can't invade another country, take the president, hold him hostage. As far as they're concerned, the president of Venezuela was abducted. So you have countries speaking up, a few countries, that is. We're yet to hear the sort of vociferous statements that we need to be hearing, but hey, you know, that is on the one hand. So, I mean, and Nigeria just came out from something with the United... Oh, we're still in it, as a matter of fact. So Nigerians are saying maybe that would have been our fate had we not found a way to cooperate. We don't know, but these are some of the issues that are still unsettling us in terms of what will our relationship with the United States be going forward, and which country is next, by the way. So there are all of these international and global calculations. But bringing it back home, bringing it back to us here, and looking at the things that are within our control, the things that we can, a number of things that people say they're not within your control, but the ones that are within our control, such as health, you cannot fight away illnesses, of how will I put it, you cannot predict when you fall ill, but there's some things that you can do to make sure that at least with the health that you have been given, you maintain it. Safety and security. Safety in particular, because, Chamberlain, I want to place a bet that if we did, if we're accountable enough to look at how many lives we lost to safety issues in the past year and compared with how many lives we lost to security issues, you might find that we lose a lot more lives to safety issues, to issues around safety, than we actually lose to security. I know that either way, none is actually good. It's not good for us to lose lives as carelessly as we are. But one is firmly within our control. It's untenable that, we had such a reckless driving that nearly cost Anthony Joshua his life, but, in the process cost his friends their lives. It's untenable that just in the beginning of this year, we're barely even finished saying Happy New Year. 25 people, or is it almost 30 people now, have lost their lives in a boat mishap in Yobe State, of all places. Would you ever think that you have such a body of water that could swallow people in the northeast of Nigeria, in Yobe State? Is it in Niger State? How many boat mishaps have happened there? Safety is something that we should pay firm. This is the dry season now, and we're yet to start hearing fires. But I know that if we do not do something about it, if we do not raise awareness and, be more proactive within our communities, you might begin to hear that in the month of January, as the Harmattan rages on and the dry season truly sets in no time we might be hearing reports of fires. So we need to make sure that we are on top of safety this year. It's something I really hope that Nigerians will be more conscious of, even amongst all the other many things that they are going to be paying attention to, tax, etc., politicians. But please, pay good attention to not just your safety, but the safety of your neighbor and those around you.
Well, I've got to add that a lot rises and falls with leadership. And there'll be a lot of wooing of the electorate that will happen this year ahead of next year's general elections. Already INEC has begun voter registration across the country. And for the last elections, I think INEC said they received about 313 billion naira to conduct that election. And that's an election that, you don't have, you felt it was a sham. I mean, depending on what side of the divide that you are on. But this year, or the next budget, you see, it will be more than that. So, and besides, confidence in INEC is, perhaps I should say, at an all-time low.
Unfortunately.
Not a lot of people are interested in going there to register. They don't have that much confidence.
We have a new INEC chairman, though.
That notwithstanding, INEC is INEC. That's what they think. And so, yes, they say the taste of the pudding is in the eating. But they've eaten this time and again. They know what the menu is like. So they're not optimistic. So I guess who knows what else will they say that they've not said before? What will they say they want to do differently now? Things are going awry, partly or largely as a result of leadership. But we, the people, we have to take the bull by the horn, pick up the gauntlet and say, listen, we've had enough of some of these things. It's about time some things change. But here are some expectations that some people had when we went to town to ask them what they expect this year.
The Federal Secretariat in Abuja comes alive after the Yuletide holiday. Workers head into their offices while reminiscing on the past year and set an agenda for the government.
Praying for the leadership, that food will become cheaper, that people will be able to move, that our hospitals will become a better place where even leaders can attend, and that the suffering masses of Nigeria, that the middle class will rise again. So these are some of my expectations for the year, that where we will have quality people in leadership.
Banks and markets are open for business on the first working week of the year, as residents of the nation's capital call for improved security situation. They also speak on their personal goals.
The government naturally should pay attention on the issue of security and also the welfare of the people, primarily because without the people, who do you govern? If the people are not given the welfare they actually expected, who should you govern? If the people do not have security of lives and property, which is the prime ordination of the government, then who are you governing?
My expectation is more of building my empire and just having my brand, right? Push out my brand.
In some parts of northern Nigeria, residents speak on their expectations for the year, especially on the implementation of the new tax laws.
We are ready to pay taxes, but what do we get for the taxes? Are we going to get corruption for the taxes? Or we are going to see infrastructure everywhere? Our hospitals, our schools, our light will be working. What pipe and water will be flowing?
With a high expectation placed on the government, residents are hopeful that the country will experience a drastic reduction in terrorism and other related crimes in the new year.
Welcome back. We're focusing on the health sector, particularly the implementation of the MOU between the federal government and the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Now, that agreement was signed in November 2025. It was meant to address key welfare and training issues under NARD's 6 2.0, that's total, indefinite, and comprehensive strike. But NARD says there's been no real implementation so far. Well, joining us now is Dr. Muhammad Sulaiman, the president of NARD, to explain the concerns, the implications for the health sector, and what may come next. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, reading your communique was heartbreaking to a lot of people. I mean, they're already between the rock and a hard place, and then seeing that, it just appears as though all hopes appear to have been gone for a lot of people. Now, yes, you did meet, but just tell us, what is the current situation now? Has there been no communication whatsoever?
No. We've been following up on all the issues that we agreed in the Memorandum of Understanding signed on 27th November last year. You have to understand that these issues have been there for a while. These issues are not new. These issues actually affect or point at the heart of healthcare service delivery. Take, for instance, the issue of the professional allowances table that the federal government released a new circular on. This corrected an injustice that lasted 7 years. So what you have in Nigeria is that whenever basic salary is affected, maybe by a minimum wage change, we have an existing agreement with the federal government that it should translate and also affect allowances. But since 2019, all the minimum wage adjustments that affected basic salaries never affected any of the allowances. And at the end of the day, there were a series of agitations that eventually led to our strike last year. And then the federal government released the professional allowance table, and we agreed on implementation. It's captured in the circular released. That one, instead of the 7 years arrears, we're only going to get 18 months. We accepted that. And then implementation will start from this month, this January. Unfortunately, after we signed and agreed, these are budgeting things. For instance, Ministry of Health will tell you that the entire new allowances table or the corrected professional allowance table will cost the federal government, when you combine all health workers in the federal government, about 90 billion per annum, which means there has to be a budgeting process. As I'm talking to you now, there's a budget before the National Assembly for consideration. That has not been captured in the budget. In fact, payment of this correction, because you were earning 45 to 60% of your salary, of your allowances before, now it has been corrected. This January, it is yet to be captured in the salary.
Did they give you any reason for that?
No. There's no reason. I mean, literally, everybody packed their bags and went for the holidays. If you look at the issue with our unjustly terminated 5 resident doctors from FTH Lokoja, what are the issues? These are union leaders that protested terrible working conditions. One query led to the other, one committee led to the other, and they were unjustly terminated. And we sat down, complained to federal government, engaged federal government. In fact, there's a petition from that community to the National Assembly. And National Assembly made a pronouncement through the House Committee on Tertiary Health Institutions and recommended the reinstatement of these guys back to Lokoja. The Ministry of Health did their own investigations, set up their own committee, and the committee during the strike last year recommended that they be reinstated back to Lokoja. Not only did they recommend they be reinstated back to Lokoja, they also recommended that their back pays be given back to them, pay for the time that they were unjustly taken away from work. What did the Ministry of Health do? They wrote us a letter advising us to tell those our colleagues to apply for work in other hospitals in Nigeria, not Lokoja. What is the danger here? I'm a union leader. So today, if I'm queried in my hospital as a union leader for these agitations that we're currently embarking on, and then for one reason or the other I lose my job, does it mean if in the future my association agitated on my behalf as a union leader that was victimized, am I going back to another hospital? Won't I go back to my own family, my wife, my kids, and all of that? That is what our colleagues in Lokoja are facing. If, for instance, you look at the issue of the specialist allowance, the Ministry of Health wrote the Office of the Head of Service and said, we want to reintroduce this to resident doctors. We think it will help stem the tide of JAPA as an incentive to these guys. And the Office of the Head of Service looked at it and said, okay, fine, go ahead. In fact, the Head of Service went a step further to write the Salaries and Wages Commission, look at the administrative processes and implement this in line with your mandate. We're only hearing that, oh no, you're not specialist, so we will not give you the specialist. Why then in the first place were you asking for it to be reintroduced when we have even agreed that it will be implemented? Then you are taking a U-turn, a 180 complete from what was signed in that MOU.
What is making the U-turn? You know, some of the things that you have stated is making me want to pull out my hair, because it does appear that there are good people who are saying, you know, we should make this agreement. We should reach this. These are things that are good for our doctors. Yes. These are things that, and then somewhere along the line, you know, other people think they have other ideas, and then they stall the process. So, for instance, the reinstatement of the doctors in Lokoja, you have said that the National Assembly agreed that these people were unjustly dismissed. The Ministry of Health itself set up a committee. It agreed that these people were unjustly dismissed. Who are the people then who are now saying, no, tell them to seek employment in other federal teaching hospitals? That is on the one hand. On the other hand, you even said the head of service agreed that it was okay for you people to have a special allowance or something to that effect. And she not only stopped, she didn't just stop at the verbal agreement. She wrote the Wages Commission, Salaries and Wages Commission, to effect that. However, again, it was stalled. Somebody somewhere thought, no, these guys are not specialists. Who are these people who are somewhere in the middle, just stalling whatever process seems to have started?
This is very key to the conversation. Whoever we're talking about is the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare.
That's not a person.
There's a Department of Hospital Services that looks at the issues of every hospital that comes to the Ministry of Health. There's a Department for Human Resource Management that looks at personnel problems that come to the Ministry of Health. For instance, the Lokoja issue, you can square it down to the Department of Human Resource. For instance, the issue of the specialist allowance, you can square it down to the Office of the Department of Hospital Services. There are people, there are directors there. I mean, take for instance, last year, January, February, the Ministry of Health brought out waivers for employment of health workers and doctors. And in those waivers, it now captured the entry level for doctors from COMMES 3, instead of COMMES 3 to COMMES 2. That is a grade level lower. Not only is it a grade level lower, it is 120 to 150,000 naira lower. And we challenged it. What the Ministry of Health said, and these are conversations with the directors and the permanent secretary and the ministers there. They told us these waivers didn't emanate from us. They emanated from the Office of the Head of Service. And when we engaged the Head of Service made it categorical. We do no longer give or approve waivers for Ministry of Health. It is domiciled within the ministry. The Head of Service went a step further and clarified what the entry level for doctors is as COMMES 3. Now, that letter has been transmitted to the Ministry of Health, officially addressed to the coordinating minister. What is the Ministry of Health supposed to do based on our agreement is to transmit the contents of that letter to chief executives who had already issued appointment letters to our doctors on COMMES 2. That has not been done. The Department of Hospital Services should take that letter, the contents of that letter from the Office of the Head of Service, and write chief executives, guys, see, this is the entry level for doctors. For now, continue at this level. They've not done that. FMPH Barnawa has given out appointment letters at Commerce 2. FTH Ido Ekiti are looking at doing that too. National Air Care Center Kaduna looked at doing that. ATBTH Bauchi looked at doing that, but somehow saw the contents of that letter and held itself back. And then more centers will do that. The danger is that IPPIS will come capturing these new employees later this month. And they will come and capture them at Commerce 2. What we are now saying is that since we agreed in that MOU, Ministry of Health, communicate these chief executives, communicate with IPPIS through a letter. It's just a letter that this is what the head of service has determined. But that is not being done. And we are complaining, and then the complaints are landing on deaf ears. And we're being told we're being unreasonable about some of these things. These are just letters that we will write. But they will tell you in the Ministry of Health that there's nothing like letters to be written. I mean, if these decisions are not communicated to chief executives of hospitals and the accountant general who captures, or the IPPS who captures these people into the payroll, how then do you correct the problem? You know, so I can look at another issue and still give you the same explanation. For instance, the membership certificate. There are two colleges, the National Postgraduate Medical College and then the West African colleges, that of the surgeons and that of the physicians for West Africa. The National Postgraduate Medical College trains, you won't get a certification until you become a fellow. That is at the end of training, 4, 5, 6, 7 years later. Now, you pass a Part 1 exams, you don't get a certification. We're asking for that certification. Now, it will be spun in this way that how can a student come and tell his teacher what to be given? Where do you write an exams on earth today? You don't get a certification. For the West African College, they do give a certification after the membership exams. However, that certification in Ghana, in Sierra Leone, other West African countries, certifies you a specialist. A specialist. In Nigeria, is just additional qualification. And what is the reason? They said those African countries have a need for mid-cadre specialists. In Nigeria, we have no need for mid-cadre specialists. We have enough consultants. I mean, anyone that thinks we have enough consultants in Nigeria, I mean, something is wrong somewhere. And these exams, it's not as if you go through separate curriculum, or you go through separate examiners, or you go through separate duration, or you even pay separate amount of money. No, everything is the same. It's the same exam, it's the same body, it's the same examiners. In other countries, it's recognized as a specialist. In Nigeria, it is not. Years back, they felt once we get these certificates, it will encourage JAPA. So we denied that specialist status. As I'm talking to you now...
Did they really say that? Or
yeah,
somebody just...
In fact, in conversations, they throw it at our faces. Now from 2015 till date, numbers of resident doctors in this country it came down from maybe 25,000 to right now just about 11,000. In 2024 alone, 4,700 doctors left the shores of this country. We'll see by the end of this month or February what is the statistics for the number of doctors. Doctors alone, not healthcare workers, because if it's the entire healthcare workforce, it's staggering. It's much more than that.
So people are still leaving.
People are still leaving. One, because of some of these professional stagnation problems. Two, because of remuneration issues. Because if you compare what you take home with doctors in Benin Republic, in Cameroon, don't even talk about Ghana, you know. Let's even talk about Cameroon and Benin Republic. I mean, the difference is quite clear. I'm not even talking about other European countries. And we're not saying pay us $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, like that. We know we're in Nigeria. We have our own economic realities. Then, the other most important issue, and permit me to talk a bit about it, is excess workload, burnout. You see a doctor, there's a Dr. Halima now in a hospital in Gombe that is on call every day of January, from 1st January to 31st January, in the internal medicine department of that particular hospital. What that means is that she's going to work from 1st of January till 31st. And then she's tired, she's exhausted, complicated cases will come. She's under-remunerated, she's underappreciated. She's told that agreements signed on her behalf cannot be implemented. And then she's expected to be diligent and at the top of her game throughout the duration of this January. It's not feasible. That
is that a general problem, or it has to do with each medical facility in terms of the burnout?
On the baseline, there is excess workload. But some hospitals, it is much more than others. For instance, in the monocenters, like the psychiatry hospital, like the orthopedics hospitals, it depends on the number of doctors they have. For instance, in my own department, I am a senior registrar in pulmonology. I am one of 2 senior registrars in pulmonology. I am a national president, and I'm here now defending the welfare of my members. The other one is taking call every day. My treasurer is the only senior registrar in plastic surgery. For about 6 months, he was taking call alone. If you look at the call duty roster for September and November, and even October, or Federal Teaching Hospital, Lokoja, you see a Dr. Yomi and a Dr. Victor Audu that are practically on call every day for those durations. Dr. Victor Audu resigned from that hospital because he asked for 10 days to go and be with his wife, who is to put to bed, and he was told because of shortage of manpower, he could not be given those 10 days. So he had to resign just so that he could be with his wife. And that is the hospital that terminated 5 doctors. They have only 32 resident doctors, over 80 consultants. Return those 5 to Lokoja. We're now speaking a whole lot of English.
There's a lot wrong, a lot that needs to be corrected. So it's, whichever way you turn, you don't even know where to go, where to start, what to address, how to go in, and it's a big challenge.
If you talk to the Federal Ministry of Health today, they will tell you, we want to do due process. We want to follow these things so that they are implemented properly. What issue have I raised on this table now that cannot be sorted out with one letter from the Federal Ministry of Health to a particular agency or agent of government?
Well, they said that the Minister of Health walked up until, is it 24th or 23rd of December before he then traveled. So one wonders if what was going on, why do these issues still linger? But then, is it true that about 21.3 billion of your arrears was released, and that about 60% of your members have gotten alert, and then they intend to release another 11.3 billion or thereabout?
What was released is actually even more than that. What was released cumulatively, if you look at a period of 3 months, is actually about 50 billion. That is the truth. But that didn't come to doctors. And I like being honest about it. Yeah. It didn't just come to doctors. It is arrears for the entire health sector. Now, in 2023...
What do you mean the entire health sector?
Everybody that you see in Federal Ministry of Health and hospitals across the entire federation. It is not just doctors.
So they had arrears?
They had arrears too.
But they didn't go on strike?
No, everybody agitated. Nurses went on strike for about a week. Johesu threatened to go on strike. NMA even threatened our mother body to go on strike. Part of it was released. When we threatened to go on strike and we were on strike, the remaining balance was released. Where did these arrears come from? Federal government on its own looked at inflation and said 25-35% will be, your basic salaries will be adjusted by that amount. And then it was implemented. And then there was a date it was supposed to be implemented. 7 months were not captured. And if you calculate these 7 months, it is that amount that I'm talking about. Now, when they paid it, you know, because this is Nigeria, we play politics with everything, it was painted that 50 billion naira was given to doctors. And that is how it went.
So,
and it's so unfortunate.
I mean, because we're looking at time, in terms of getting a solution, because at the end of the day, if you go to any of these facilities, it's a sorry state. People are suffering. There are lots of people who are dying because no doctors are available to attend to people, and it's a really sad situation. In terms of getting a solution to all of this, because they say, some may think it's simple, but every now and then there's a strike or the other. So what would you recommend? Because it looks as if it goes beyond writing a letter, paying allowances. Do we need to retool, re-strategize, reorganize the sector such that you get persons who perhaps train in healthcare management to run some of these facilities or lead, as opposed to just getting a medical doctor to be a minister, to be the coordinating head, and things like that?
Well, I am a union leader. I look at the welfare of my members, and I look at the directive of the National Executive Council. When you talk about managing the Federal Ministry of Health, it is way above my pay grade. Whoever the president feels will manage Federal Ministry of Health appropriately for him. I mean, it is his decision.
No, I understand that.
For me, whoever is going to do that management must understand that whatever structure you erect, whatever infrastructure you implement, if you neglect the welfare of those healthcare workers, you're running into troubled waters.
Well, for instance, you may say it's above your pay grade, but whatever they do there affects you. Yes, you've been in that sector for decades, so it doesn't stop you from saying, look, I think this can change so that we can get better decisions or better resolutions. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think perhaps people that have been trained and worked clearly in the Nigerian setting are better fit to understand the Nigerian problem. What did we do? We had 19 demands. If you look at the 9 demands that are there now, there are 12 or 13 items compressed into 9, because we don't want to stay away from work. The Ministry of Health brought out the statistics. In that statistics, they mentioned that In the second quarter of the previous year, 10 million people sought out healthcare services at the primary healthcare level. In the third quarter or the fourth quarter, the quarter after that, 40 million people did that, which means Nigerians are running to the hospitals with problems. Who sees these people? It is healthcare workers. It is somebody like me, which means the number has increased. All I'm saying is whoever is going to be at the helms of affairs should understand you can put all the CT scans and the MRIs, you can build all the cancer centers, but at the end of the day, if you neglect the health workforce, you begin to have problems.
That's the fundamental flaw in whatever they're putting out.
Yes.
All right, we need to wind up, but do you agree with that stats? I mean, I don't know if you saw it, where they said, I think about medical tourism had reduced to, is it 90, 95%? You must have seen that.
Yes, I have seen it. I don't know what metric they use. I've not gone through the entire data. But I work in Katana, so I see patients actually from Niger Republic. I see patients from Chad. I see patients from neighboring countries to Nigeria. I don't know about the start of. I still see patients in my clinic that I give referrals that will leave the shores of this country, that will go and process their visa and go. Where that statistics came from, I mean, let me allow the Federal Ministry of Health to defend it. As far as I am concerned, 10 years ago, as a medical officer, I will probably see, in our unit, we'll probably see 1,000, 2,000 patients. Now, with less number of doctors, I know I see four times that number in a month.
It's 2026. We're just, what can we do but hope?
I hope they will impute all of these things in the 2026 budget so that January 12th will not happen.
Well, maybe when the minister returns, we'll have to put these questions across to them to see why does this keep happening every now and then? Why? Why does it appear as though this is too big a challenge for them to sort out? But we have to thank you and hope that at the end of the day, we'll put the word out there and hope that all of this is sorted. But lots of people are really, really under the cusp as a result of all of this back and forth. Dr. Mohammed Sulaiman, President of NARD, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, back in a moment, we'll be talking sports as well, so don't go away. Welcome back. Yes, we'll be talking sports now. Well, that's one of the ways, actually, you could, as much as you can, stay away from emergency medical situations because, look, you need all the luck you can get. Given what's going on with our health sector, nobody wants to just have that emergency. I mean, you remind us of Anthony Joshua, the emergency case. So you just want to be as healthy as possible. And, of course, God playing his part, if you acknowledge him, that is. Well, Tony Bitoye joins us now, former media officer for the Super Eagles. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for this opportunity, Chamberlain. Good morning.
Yeah, we had an opportunity. Good morning. And Happy New Year to you, by the way. We had an opportunity yesterday to grin from ear to ear, one of those moments in football. 4-0. I mean, we're coming from not keeping clean sheets as much as we like to 4-0. Wow. Sometimes I just say, this team has a way of raising hopes. I'm going to go to the other part before I jinx it.
But raising hopes and dashing them.
No, let's just raise it. Leave it raised. Just leave it raised for now. Well, I know you must have been excited and watching that particular match, but from your experience, I mean, you've been with the team up close. So talk to us about some of the, not just what happened as well, but behind the scene, how you think this was achieved.
Yeah, I mean, like every Nigerian, we want our teams to win and win well, you know, play good football, score beautiful goals, and dominate the opponent. And that was what we saw yesterday from the Super Eagles. And that's the first time in this tournament that the team is scoring 4 goals. And that was the first time we were keeping a clean sheet in the tournament. So it looks like we are getting better game after game. Of course, you know how we went into this tournament. We went on the heels of disappointment. You were saying something about sports being one of the ways to keep fit. It's also one of the ways to die quick if you are not careful. If you put too much of hope or you allow your heart to race too fast, sometimes the doctors advise that if you know you are hypertensive, don't stay near high-tension games, you know, so that you don't injure yourself or harm yourself. But it's good, you know. on the value of what we saw yesterday. It's very good performance from the team, very professional, and very convincing win. I think from the first game, now we scored about 12 goals now, and we've had 7 different scorers, and that's what we want to see from your team. 3 out of the goals we scored yesterday were tap-ins. I mean, Chamberlain, you know football very well, even if Marco does not know too much of football. Tap-ins,
he'll shock you.
Tap-ins, you know, okay, you know, tap-ins are the goals you score after excellent team play. So somebody is just there to tap in, you know, you don't struggle.
And strikers love
it. Easy. You don't stress yourself, you just tap in the ball. And we scored 3 tap-ins yesterday to show how well we played. I don't think the Eagles moved beyond the first gear all through that game, and they were so dominant. And if they needed to score more goals yesterday, they could have done it. And it's a progression that we're seeing in this tournament. And that's what you want in a tournament. In a tournament, you don't start at the very top. You build up momentum, you know. 2-1 win. A lot of people complained about the victory. 3-2 win over Tunisia. 3-0, and then we started conceding towards the end of the game. And then 3-1 against Uganda, an improvement on the 3-2 win over Tunisia. And then yesterday, 4-0 win over Mozambique in the knockout phase. The most convincing performance so far in the knockout phase. So it's good. It's that's how you want to progress in the tournament. And our hope is that it will keep getting better and better.
So that would definitely be a big shot of confidence for the players. But that spat with Victor Osimhen, you know, it just leaves a sour taste in the mouth at the end of the day. Is this likely to affect team cohesion or probably the next outing?
No, not in any way. They are used to him, Chamberlain. They are used to him. That's Victor Osimhen for you. While it needs to be, I'm telling you, while it needs to be better managed, they also need to talk to him, but they are used to him. They see a lot of it in training, Chamberlain. Sometimes Victor Osimhen just picks a quarrel and, you know, just goes off, and they will just tell him that he will calm down, don't worry, he will calm down. But the good thing about it is that immediately after he's had those sessions, he calms down, and you will never know they happen, you know, because the blend and everything will go well. Just look at yesterday's game. It was all over Ademola Lookman, celebrating the assist that he gave him to score goals. Hugging, jumping, carrying everybody. And then there was a spat between Osimhen and Bruno. You know, Osimhen was probably asking for the ball, and Bruno gave it to someone else. And Ademola Lookman now told him, Victor, calm down. And then he faced Lookman, like he was the one that he was quarreling with. So they know him, but it's not an excuse for Victor to go on with that kind of behavior. But I'm sure it is sorted, and the coaches will manage the situation, because we are in a tournament setting. You don't want anything to disrupt the rhythm that the team has built. So they understand him, and I'm sure that issue has been sorted. And this is not the first time in this tournament that it is happening. Yeah. You remember the Tunisia game when he was quarreling with the assistant referee, and he was telling him, now I've scored a good goal, let's see whether you can disallow this. You remember? And maybe also talking to the Tunisian bench, you know, and all of it. But that's Victor for you. It will be sorted, but that situation needs to be better managed. But I know these boys very well. They'll probably laugh over it. If you've been seeing a lot of their videos, Chukwueze and Basi, you know, carrying over what happened in Fulham, when Basi was in a position to pass the ball to him and then balloon the ball. And Chukwueze was saying, you ballooned it like an amateur player. And at this AFCON, Chukwueze had an opportunity for a free kick, and he ballooned it. And Basi retaliated by saying, that free kick, you ballooned it like an amateur player. So they are used to the banter. And I'm sure that issue will not be a problem at all for them.
Well, here we are now. We've cruised, is it past the quarterfinals with this 4-0 win? And
we are now in the quarterfinals.
Well, we're now in, beg your pardon, we're now in the quarterfinal. Well, don't mind me getting ahead of myself. I'm wondering, what do you think will be our biggest rivals as we now move forward? Because clearly it shows that we've come to dominate. This is something that this cup, we're used to winning it, the African Cup. We have dominated the African continent for quite a bit. Who do you think we should really be afraid of?
Well, you can only face a team that is ahead of you. You know, some people believe that when you win the tournament, doesn't mean you are the best team. You've just been lucky to beat all the teams placed ahead of you. And so our next game will be this weekend. And it will be the winner of the game between DR Congo. Remember, DR Congo stopped us from going to the World Cup. And Algeria. The winner of DR Congo and Algeria versus Algeria will be Nigeria's next opponent.
Yes,
and
let's go.
I like to use the words of Kenneth Raw, who I worked with in the Super Eagles before he left. He says, your most important game is the next one. You don't think ahead of yourself. You think of the next game ahead of you. That's the most important game for you to play. So I agree absolutely that, yes, there are still a lot of big teams left in the tournament, but the team ahead of us will emerge this evening, and it will be either of DR Congo or Algeria. And whichever of them come out of today's game will be a worthy opponent and will deserve all the attention.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you for talking to us. So we're optimistic. That's the way to go, actually. The players have a lot of confidence now, so we hope they take it into the next game and give us that. Of course, we respect the opponent. We respect them, but we expect a victory. Thank you, Mr. V, for talking to us today.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. So now we're moving to baseball and softball. Don't laugh about it because, yes, we'll play it in this country. So Uche Odozie is here with us. He's elected the president of the World Baseball and Softball Confederation in Africa, as a matter of fact. Congratulations and Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year, Chamberlain. Happy New Year, Malwe. And compliments of the New Year.
Congratulations to you on your election.
Very much.
Yeah.
How did that even play out? Because, I mean, I didn't think Nigeria expected to be elected president in that, did we?
It was a very interesting scenario because I currently hold the position of the president of baseball, softball in Nigeria. And, of course, 5 presidents across the continent were also drafted to contest those positions, of course, Nigeria being the least. But I think what played out was just the vision to change the narrative of baseball and softball on the continent. And such a very big sport, a multi-billion-dollar worth of an industry, still being played as a kind of recreational is not acceptable for some of us that are very business-minded. So I think that was what I sold to the continent and to the global authorities to say that, look, we need to rethink Africa. Because when you look at Africa, that is the last ground standing for athlete production. The industry is worth over, the Major League is worth over $70 billion. A club in New York, the New York Yankees, is worth about $7 billion. Los Angeles Dodgers is worth about $5.2 billion. And the investor return on investment is about 13.8%.
Yeah, but you have to get the people interested. You have to get the people to know the game. The revenue is going to come from those who eventually watch the game. I've noticed that when it comes to games that have to do with pitching, cricket, baseball, in fact, cricket, which is even played amongst, would you say amongst the elite schools in Nigeria, it doesn't seem to go beyond that particular level. So how do you intend to get people to be more aware about this game? I mean, baseball is big in America, we know that. But it's barely caught on here in Nigeria. People barely understand what the game is about.
Actually, you know, you're very correct if you say, but everything about business, like when I said that, look, baseball is business, every business of sports has got to be visible. And that visibility has got to come across collaborations. And one of the first things that we've had more activities actually in Nigeria. As at 2025, we played over 17 games unlike before. So you're rated by the number of games and tournaments that you participate. But on the continent as well, we've had a lot of activities. Last year was so much activities of baseball, and countries are already preparing towards the Los Angeles Olympics. But when you talk about the other alternative sports, like you talk about the cricket and you talk about all this, it's just because an average businessman has not identified that, look, this is a very, very good value for money where you could also return your investments. And baseball is one of that, undoubtedly. But what we have done is actually to seek those kind of collaboration with companies, with institutions, with also media houses to be able to, optimize the outcome of the sports. But it's quite exciting, and we have just signed a deal with the Japanese International Corporation for Africa. So there will be a baseballership program that is going to cut across schools. And one of the fundamental things we did was just to take baseball back to where we met baseball, because we all got to play baseball right from the schools. But the departure from the schools actually stalled the kind of visibility that you need. If you need to produce the quality players that you need to go back to the basics. We started playing baseball in the barracks. They are no longer there today. But what we have done is to activate these on the continental level, including Nigeria, to go back to the schools using the baseballership program that is being sponsored by the Japanese International Corporation under JABS. Also, the United States agencies are also in support of this. And the Major League, interestingly, is shopping for new athletes out of Africa, because there is a new demand for players. There's a new demand for more clubs, because this is a profitable venture. Why are businessmen not taking to this? Why are companies out of Nigeria not utilizing this opportunity?
Speaking about the business side of it, I mean, yesterday, the NIS boss told us that this government seemed to prioritize sports. They had the highest allocation in the budget so far compared to previous ones. In terms of ensuring that we have a footing, I mean, a big footing in the sports, in this particular sport in Africa, what is your approach? I know that football headquarters, we don't have that one. Basketball, we don't have that one. Volleyball, we don't have that one. Which headquarters of sports do we even have in this country? So what's your approach towards that area?
One of the first things that I sold to the executive board members is actually to seek for a headquarter agreement. Interestingly, baseball happens to be, we have 5 continental baseball countries. Africa is one of them. And Africa at the moment does not have any baseball headquarter agreement. But interestingly, when we made these open, a lot of countries in Africa have already indicated interest to host the headquarters of baseball and softball, including baseball 5 on the continent. But of course, it's not on a first-to-come, basis, So we need to look at the criteria. We need to look at your history. We need to look at your stability. We need to look at... There is just so much there. But we believe that, look, the countries like Nigeria, and I believe that the National Sports Commission chairman, Alhaji Diko, the director, DG, Olokpa, they all are very, very keen in exploring this opportunity. Of course, it will bring immeasurable potentials in terms of the country that holds this headquarter agreement. And what does this entail? It entails housing the headquarter operation of baseball and softball, meaning that all the development, all the inflows of investments into that sports on the continent is going to be administered from the headquarters. And we are very excited that, look, this is coming now, and many countries are indicating interest, but we have not narrowed it down to any country. I'm still talking with my executive, and we are still looking at these countries and see who is the best suit or fitted to be in this
But we have a huge chance, don't we?
Nigeria stands a very good chance because Nigeria has been playing baseball since the past 35 years. I started playing baseball over 30 years ago.
Wow.
And of course, baseball made entry, first into Nigeria in 1960. And for 6 years, it exited due to the Civil War, due to protest. But of course, due to the magnanimity of the likes of General Ishole Williams, they also started off the baseball again within the military, compounds, and that was where actually, I started playing. So today we have that excitement that, look, is all back and is all going well. And if Nigeria gives this nod, of course, definitely, we will see how it gets there.
I'm just wondering, is it expensive, though? I mean, for the schools that would watch this, for instance, and might get interested, how expensive? Because one of the arguments that they've made, you know, for cricket, and that's why you see it mostly in very elite schools, is that it's quite expensive to maintain the pitch. Football has been very easy because all you need is a ball and an open space, and people turn it to... It's played everywhere. You don't even need school settings for you to even be able to play the game. So how expensive is this for one to be able to set up a pitch where this is played?
If you look at baseball, we have the baseball for men. We have softball for ladies, which is a smaller space that is required. Of course, we have the baseball 5, which is just one unit ball, a tennis size like this. You can play it anywhere, even in this studio here. You know, so that gets to carry everybody along, depending on your budget. But again, if you think education is expensive, why don't you try ignorance? You know, what you put in is what you get out. An average sign-on fee for baseball is $20 to $40 million. Just to say, come, let us try you. An average player in the New York Yankees or Los Angeles Dodgers, the start-off sign-on fee is about $200 million.
So they paid them?
Yes. Yes. The record sign-on fee is $700 million. And then Otani, that is a Japanese, less than 40 years old, is signed for $763 million. Junior Guerrera, who moved from New York Yankees to Toronto Blue Jays, is a $513 million. This is the kind of money that is in the space. So if you're thinking of serious business, you can't compare baseball with cricket.
Is there any Nigerian who's broken into the international scene?
Well, we've had Nigerians sign on, but it was not on a good note. That happened, but the young man had an accident just when he was about to fly out. You know, bad fate, you know, that befell the country. That was our first, you know, person to go professional. But you know, we have many talented players. 200 million people in Nigeria. Wow. This is definitely a revenue earner for the country if very well explored.
And this ball is the... So
this is baseball 5. Baseball 5, interestingly, a team of 5 people. In the studio, you have Maokwe, you have Chamberlain, 2 other female or 2 other guys, 5 people. Take this ball around the studio here. You can actually have so much fun. And the beautiful thing around it is that it's a science of sports. It helps the cognitive development of the average child. That's why in the developed countries, you find baseball introduced at the very basic level of education, because it's a science of sports where the children begin to learn aerodynamism, you know, and all the intricacies of mathematics, the yardsticks, the dimensions, the yard box. So it's all a puzzle of science of sports, all put in one ball that you run around it. So it's not expensive when you compare it to what you stand to gain out. And if investors are earning 13.8 return on investment, who has invested in baseball, and they are looking for more opportunities, I think, hey, Africa, if you have that money, this is the right place to put it.
Wow, that sign-on fee is just jarring my head, man.
Crazy. old man.
maybe when you can keep this one and you can have that for you.
You'll be shocked.
For my kids, right?
By the time he tells you my possible sign-on fees,
please,
you'll be shocked. Okay.
This is 2026.
Yes, that's why the sign-on fees. Didn't you hear the
old man?
Did you hear the figure?
Let's not go into that.
Does money respect age? If you can do it. Okay, you will see.
Let's not break bones in old age. I beg you.
Let's break it if you get the money. We will release the money and fix it. Thank you for coming on Richard Dozo, the president of World Baseball and Softball Confederation. Well, that wraps it up today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
I'm Maokwe Ogun. Thank you so much for watching Ogun Yusuf.